Hello, Aparna. Welcome to Press Insider. I am Mishika and I am joined by my colleague and reporter Shireen Khan.
Hi, Aparna.
Thanks, and thank you for having me here.
How have office design priorities evolved since the pandemic? And what are the key elements that companies are incorporating to support hybrid work models?
So I think it's a very relevant question because obviously people are really looking at work practices differently now after the pandemic. I think one thing people have realized is how important it is to provide for meeting spaces and collaboration spaces. These were in many companies, especially small companies, a little bit of an afterthought that you fit in all the workstations and then you just have a couple of meeting rooms. But now people are realizing that collaboration and meeting are actually one of the main reasons for people to come into office. Also, they're realizing that people still need to do calls and need private spaces. So what we're seeing is more variety in the kind of work settings that people have. More types of meeting rooms, different sizes, phone booths. I even saw in the office, I think it was Dream 11, that they had a sports track, running track all the way through the office, and people did calls or walking meetings around that. So I think people are being a little more innovative around this whole concept of how do you get people to collaborate and to provide for that. The second thing was that this whole area of employee wellness. Some companies are taking that seriously because they're realizing that people want to come to a place where they feel more human, and that's not just a clinical space. So, for example, I saw in SAP Labs in Bangalore that they had something like 750 to 800 trees in the office, and they had a lot of indoor courtyards, because these were places where people could actually just take a break, connect with nature, get refreshed, get nourished. And alongside that, they had a host of other wellness measures. So I think just putting the attention back on the employee is what the good employers are doing.
So, ma'am, you talked a lot about innovation at the beginning, and one of the key elements of that, I suppose, is sustainability in this era. So, as sustainability has become increasingly crucial, could you just share some innovative, eco friendly practices that are being integrated into modern office designs?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about sustainability is that it's not just a question of practices, but it's really a question of intent. So, are you fundamentally looking to make your office green from the beginning? Or are you just sort of plastering it on at the end as a kind of a device or a measure? And the one office that I was really impressed by was actually a government building by the Ministry for New and Renewable Energy, which you would think the headquarters would be very green, but it's actually a net energy positive building. So the building actually generates more electricity and energy than it consumes. And it's been able to do that through a number of ways, solar energy panels and various ways to actually save on energy and to insulate the building, use of the type of materials. So I actually think that sustainability is a bit like going on a diet. You can't just try and think one silver bullet will come and just meet all your needs. When you want to lose weight, we all try and do many different things, right? We look at our intake, we look at our energy expenditure, we look at our consumption, we count our calories, we look at our sleep. So I think similarly, when you're looking at energy, you have to look at when you're looking at sustainability, you have to look at it from a very strategic perspective, and that was something that building did.
You were also mentioning about the well being of employees. So, in your experience, how can the design of an office space influence or enhance employees' productivity?
Yeah, actually, productivity, I think, is a function of many different things. And the way I look at an office is that it enhances not just an employee's productivity, but it also looks at the organization as a whole, the well-being of the organization. So it's the well-being of the employee and the well-being of the organization. And if you can align these, then you get really good results. So, for example, one office that I went to, they had a policy says work the way you want to. They followed this policy in many different ways because they had spaces where employees could choose where they wanted to sit. There was unassigned seating. They had a lot of flexible options. but they also had quite a lot of flexibility in the hours that people worked. Their technology supported this because every place was enabled with the right technology. And then the mindset of the managers was also like that. So I think you need to kind of align all the factors which are intangible, tangible, the culture, the policies, the physical workplace. All of these things have to come together to actually get that productivity increase.
Talking about how crucial a role design plays in all this. If you were to highlight some of the best office designs in India, which would make your top list, and what unique elements set them apart?
Yeah, so let's start with a really huge office, which this was the office of Boston Consulting Group in Gurgaon. So these are, a large multinational consulting service. They are in the business of thinking. They're in the business of providing ideas and solutions and services and intellectual, output to their clients. So they use design thinking to come up with a really interesting office, because they said that we offer design thinking services to our clients. Why not do it for ourselves? And they said, let us look at what is a day in the life of a BCGer, and what does that average BCG employee do every day? And they studied lots of people like that throughout the office, got lots of data, and based on that, they came up with really cool designs. So it's not that everything is all funky and wild and things like that, but they actually made places where it became easier to think. So the kind of workspaces they provided were for example, they had hexagonal tables rather than just round tables, because that's the most conducive for a discussion, apparently. They had like brainstorming rooms. They had quiet spaces where people could work. Obviously, they had a lot of workstations. They had things like a cafe, wellness area. So I think what I liked was not just the space, but the approach. But the other office I really liked was an architecture firm called Space Matrix, also based in the north. And the office just doesn't look like an office at all. I call it the unoffice, because you walk in thinking it could be like a restaurant or a cafe. They have a cafe at the heart of it, but they also have an amphitheater where people can sit and have presentations. They have desks, obviously, where people can work, but then they have extremely quiet areas. Then they have dining table style desks where people can collaborate. So the whole space doesn't feel like a conventional office. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really liked it. And then I must say, I went to see the office of Your Dost, which is a mental health startup based in Bangalore. And they had a dog in there. And they had a dog called Penny, who belongs to the founder. And the dog comes in pretty much every day and is like the office pet and offers pet therapy, and people enjoy having her in the office. And I just thought it was so cool. Like I'd been to like 100 offices and I hadn't seen a pet in the office that was officially there.
As mental health awareness is, a part of a lot of companies' policies. So how can office spaces impact on employees' mental health?
Maslow came up with this, pyramid of hierarchy of needs that all human beings have. And at the bottom, there is things like just physiological needs, getting shelter, clothing, food. And then it goes higher and higher. And I think the same hierarchy of needs applies to our mental health in the office. So when it comes to our basic needs, we need to be feeling that we're secure, that we have ventilation, that we have air circulation, that we have some light. That we are not harassed, especially if you're women, not sexually harassed at work, so that you have that basic safety, comfort that an office provides. And I think many offices actually, unfortunately, don't provide that. But, even just having the right ventilation and the right lighting, sound, acoustics, all of those things. That's one. And then the higher order needs is the need, as I was saying earlier, to be social, right? To connect with people, to be collaborative. So to have offices that encourage that, allow people to connect, to have transparency in the way they work. And then I think still higher order, as Maslow talks about, is that more in the area of self-actualization, where you're coming to office because it's giving you some purpose, it's giving you some meaning. It's not just a job, it's not just a check, it's not just a salary. You're coming there because you want to see some part of your personal mission or your goal or something being reflected in the work that you do. And I think in that case, where the office plays a really major role in terms of well-being is in terms of the culture of the space, and making sure the space is not filled with a toxic environment, that it's a positive environment. And the culture of the space is then reflected in the design of it, right?
So post-COVID, employees in knowledge-based organizations are preferring remote and flexible working for a better life, work-life balance. So, according to you, on which side you are at and why?
I think the hybrid is the way forward. I think it's important for people to have that flexibility. And it's not just a question of hybrid or flexibility. Like, I'll say that, I've seen people, for example, who wake up early in the morning, who'll do a couple of hours of work at home, then might go and do some yoga and have breakfast and be leisurely about it, and leave actually much later and go to office by 10:30 and reach by 11:30. That doesn't mean that they've not been working. They just had more flexibility about how they wanted to structure their day, right? And I think all of us have those different work styles, and the company should be adaptive. I think what's very, very important is for companies to be thoughtful and intentional about how they conduct meetings. Okay, does everybody have to be there at a meeting? Who needs to be there? Are there pre-reads that are sent beforehand? Is there documentation sufficiently before and after the meeting? So I think that, if people are more intentional about meetings, then you probably don't need to attend as many meetings in person as you think you do. So I think it's important that rather than going back to the way we worked earlier and employees wanting to stay at home, companies need to be aware that there is a new social contract between employees and employers, and people need to be more thoughtful and leverage technology. Otherwise, people are in a situation where they're going to work also, and then also they have all their Zoom calls that go on. So there's travel happening, there's Zoom call happening, there's meetings happening, there's going to work happening. So I think people just need to be much, much more thoughtful and intentional about how to work.
Thank you so much, ma'am. There's so much from that I'm going to take away as a working professional and a woman.
Thank you so much for taking out time and meeting us.
Thanks a lot.